you know, my spray and fluffies are from. It's like, I know where to go if you want to download that. Meanwhile, Fluffy just said he knows where mine is from.
Looks like teams are being scrambled. Finally.
To explain to you, Junebug, the reason for war is it's a paraphilia. There is no conscious reason why anyone who has this fetish knows why. Anyone who gives you says this is definitively why someone has that fetish or this fetish, they're wrong. People who have the fetishes don't get it.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Control point enabled.
I'm talking.
Got that.
For some reason, war is sort of a dumb sub thing.
Yeah, I remember one person said it basically, as far as the internet recognizes, war grew out of the whole women in peril fetish and was just a subsection of dominance and submission, but apparently it grew into its own thing.
I don't even know what that is, and I don't know if I want to find out.
Well, I'm one of those people who's like fascinated by fetishes, so I looked up like psychological books and the like on them. That seems to be it. Fetishes are, however, shaped more by the subconscious. They are picked up as you go through life. But like I said earlier, they're subconscious. You don't know. You, as a person, don't know why. You, as a primal being, do, but the primal part of you doesn't want to say. I think part of the reason some people... A few of the conscious reasons I've heard some people say they like war was, the two more convincing ones were, one, as a case for non-fatal war, it's really the world's most intimate hug you could ever get. A second one is, as another person said, how, you know, it's a dominance and submission thing. How much more dominant can you get over someone than having them inside of you and completely at your mercy? Yeah, I know Hyper's a thing.
Hyper's pretty tame.
I've been to Fur Affinity. Some people try and use physics arguments to argue that hyper can happen. Just off the argument of relativity that a grain of sand, or the universe can sit in a grain of sand. So some people are trying to argue that basically means you could have a dick the size of the Empire State Building go inside someone.
Okay, obviously whoever's arguing that surely does not understand astrophysics.
Actually, I've only seen that argument mentioned once seriously, and it was a troll, and the other time it was used in actually hyper art just to make a joke. Okay, radioactive nuke. To explain, hyperphilia is, yeah, individual body parts being much larger than average. For example, as sexual fetish, it often involves, say, imagine a woman with breasts the size of those yoga exercise balls, or the Japanese tanuki myth with testicles the size of wrecking balls.
Sounds terrible.
No. Attack of the 50-foot woman doesn't count as hyper. That counts as its own fetish, macrophilia. Macro is the fetish for giants. So Gigantophiz, giants, attack of the 50-foot woman, that kind of thing.
You know,
hyper is just like if you were the same size. Imagine if a woman was still 6 feet tall, or yeah, about 5 to 6 feet tall, but had breasts that looked like they belonged on the 50-foot woman, and that's basically hyper. No, that's not the most extreme, but I'm just saying it's general rule of thumb for the fetish. It's just genitalia larger, or the way I see it usually is genitalia larger than should physically fit on that frame. Let's see, another couple of fascinating fetishes. Someone brought up vor and asked how that can happen as a fetish. Apparently a lot of people tend to blame the fact that the Terror Toad episode of Power Rangers exists.
That's pretty funny.
There is actually a pony
I would
fetish.
assume it would be girlfriend.
Match ends in 30
Yeah.
seconds.
some people are basically saying it's because of new research saying, hey, people's sexual orientation might be more about social cues they witnessed when they were growing up than what people perceive as normal. So some people think fetishes work the same way. I can say personally, there are some people who get aroused by a fetish regardless of whether or not it's explicit. I've seen someone who actually gets aroused
Thank you for that wonderful
by
information.
shoes. And it's just like, no, this guy just, he was like on some
Changeling confirmed for shoe fetish.
No, I don't have a shoe fetish. I don't get the foot fetish.
I try.
I do have a vor fetish though. That
Thank
one
you.
is kind of cool.
I love this server so much.
It's too good.
Yes, there is a reptilian fetish. It's sort of like the they call it scalies. No, seriously, there's actually a fetish for reptiles, but it's applied the same way as furries.
Yep.
There's one specifically for birds too.
Avians.
I met an avian.
Seriously, I like I said, I just hang around and learn the psychological stuff behind this.
Station plays this song play.
The match begins.
So if I remember correctly, we left off in a discussion involving paraphilia.
By the way, don't throw up. Don't lie into me.
Reminder, I am still streaming. This may or may not be a highlight.
Wait, someone's streaming this?
Look at the scoreboard.
And send
my
me
God.
play.
Oh, please tell me this is getting streamed. I so want to see a recording of this.
Will begin
Just to see the
in 30
comments.
seconds.
Oh my fucking god.
Yeah, did you guys
Aw.
my name?
Oh, I didn't.
I noticed it when I first got here, but to be honest, I completely stopped paying attention to it.
The match
Okay,
kicks
so-
off in 10 seconds.
Do we want to continue the intellectual discourse on paraphilias?
3,
Or, you're right, furry is less of a fetish, more of an identity.
It's a fandom.
Yeah. Yep.
I've had like 3 viewers today. One of them was Jim Dog.
That's cool.
I followed you today, Abe.
I should follow you. Go away, Scout. Go away, go away.
Okay, so, let's see. A lot of people seem to theorize, as I was saying earlier, that certain fetishes are caused just by the amount of reaction you see, whether positive or negative, to certain stimulus as a child. So some people seem to think certain actions being associated with positive things might lead to it becoming a fetish later in life. Other people seem to think it's more of a subconscious thing. It's something that, for lack of a better term, causes the sort of illicit thrill that you're really, that when you're younger, that you're getting excited by something you're not supposed to, and that feeling that, ooh, this is
I've
what's going
learned
to body
way
later
more
turns into a
fetishes
sexual
today than I think
desire.
I've ever needed to.
Well, I seek to enlighten about all this sort of weird stuff. Earlier, a lot of people seem to think that episode of Power Rangers featuring the monster the Terror Toad is responsible for quite a few vor fetishes out there. Simply because that was, to many people, sorry if I was interrupting something, to many people that is their first exposure to something similar to what most people recognize as vor. Aimed at how some people would say many cartoons have jokes involving stuff getting eaten in ways that resemble the fetish of war as well, so some people say it could be that as well. I just used as well way too much in that sentence.
Maybe they just want to be somewhere warm and wet. Cozy.
Actually, that's part of it as well. Some people emphasize vor as, especially non-lethal vor, as being just, you know, here's this comfortable point. I've seen several cases where people emphasize the idea of, let's not mince hairs. I've read several stories involving that sort of thing, and most of the stories involving using it as, quite a few stories involve using it as protection of some kind. So it's like, oh, you know, here's this kindly yeti that can swallow you to keep you from getting frostbite. Things like that. Of course, quite a few people who hear about the vor fetish immediately associate it with cannibalism or gigantic, or macrophilia more specifically, because those are, unfortunately, the cannibalism's more of a negative stereotype, and the gigantic just, it's way too easy to do, in my opinion. Kind of like the people who just use Photoshop's circle tool on top of a cartoon screenshot, call it vor. I'm not trying to hijack this intellectual conversation to be complaining about my own personal griefs with my own fetish, but oh well. That does kind of point out one of the issues, is it does get a lot. The problem is, every time cannibalism comes up, or anything such similar in crime, it immediately gets blamed on vorophilia. I mean, some people tried to connect Jeffrey Dahmer to vor, as to him having a fetish for vor, and then claiming, well, that's why he, you know, killed and ate people, because he had this fetish. It's like, no, most, if nothing else, several psychologists have actually said vor is probably one of the safer fetishes you could have. Oh, mostly the reason people, well, no, he's adding me because he sees this as interesting.
Yeah,
Because it's probably more interesting because I'm approaching this from a more academic angle than just, dude, that's so hot.
Yeah, actually.
But I was gonna mention it.
No, oh no.
Yeah, like, doesn't it have to do with, like, the enzymes that tell your, give your body desires for the most primal things, food and sexual reproduction? Isn't that a result of those enzymes getting kind of mixed up?
No, the enzymes are very similar, but no one has ever confirmed whether or not it is, in fact, the two of them can interchange. It's much like trying to say you're allergic to cats, therefore you're allergic to, you know, different allergens do not cross over into the wrong receptors, and a lot of people seem to think the brain does, in fact, function like that. If the brain chemicals do go into the wrong receptors, they just get rejected and nothing happens. See, what got... it's probably getting kind of personal, but what got me into vor was actually just me just searching out art, seeing it by chance, and going, this is actually kind of interesting. I want to know more about this.
I just like weird shit.
Ah, yeah, that's
What's the point of the internet if you're not gonna look up crazy weird shit you're not gonna see every day? Or ever at all before?
Yep, that basically describes most of the different new fetishes I've discovered on the internet.
Aren't you ready? We're bad.
Well, you were kicked because of some man
But anyway, personally, I don't think... I am starting to agree with some people who claim you can actually acquire a new fetish if you never had one before, if enough positive exposure is created by an existing fetish being encountered.
No, pyro. Damn.
The idea behind that claim, psychologically speaking, is just that you encounter... Yeah, it's basically that you encounter a new fetish. It's
for like
overall positive, so you don't, you know, dissociate with disgust, especially if you pornographic material besides, as well as being fetishistic. Yes, that's exactly it. Your psychological profile is fully formed when you're an adult, so it's not that liable to shift. Whereas when you're
At
a
least there's a
child,
bunch
you know,
of pyros instead of soldiers this time.
as I said, my first exposure to war was actually through another fetish transformation, though you often find art of that that's perfectly clean as far as pornography is concerned.
That was stupid from me.
Yeah, so basically I found a transformation art archive because at the time that was the easiest thing for me to look up that was porn. Then, you know, someone's personal art site has a section labeled vor, and I thought, well, what's that? I want to check it out, and that was my first exposure to vor. So quite often when it comes to fetishes you've had for a while, you can often think back. I'm not going to encourage anyone to do so right now, but you can think back to when you first encountered something similar to that, and usually it always got some kind of reaction out of you. I know quite a few people say that their first reaction... For example, I've heard some people say their first reaction to what they later learned was a fetish was actually fear. They were afraid of it. They were worried. Why did this interest them? Personally, I seem to always react to vorophilia appealing content with arousal. Bits and pieces from across the internet.
Oh, I forgot I'm not on a Valve server anymore, and the spies here actually have brain cells. And they have the correct number of chromosomes.
On the Valve server?
Vor, yeah, it depends. There's actually several versions of vor. Non-fatal is what's called... there are several subcategories of vor that are to be explored. I'm not going to go over them at length, so I'll just... Yeah, soft vor is usually being swallowed whole and alive, quite often non-digestion. Digestion can happen, but it's rare. Next up happens...
This conversation has taken a turn for the worse.
Then there's hard vor, that's closer to just raw cannibalism as a fetish than anything else. Let's see, other types of vor. Absorption, which actually happens in two different states. Either A, someone just absorbing someone else directly, much like an amoeba, or B, things that happen like, absorption ends up as a category of vor. Either absorb someone totally like an amoeba, or it's something like cell that you eat someone, digest them, and then gain their abilities and features. Kirby. And then,
Kirby!
So it's sort of like, imagine the crew from 40K, basically. As they eat creature, yeah, quite a few video games do that. Kirby basically does as well. Let's see, other sub-fetishes of war tend to have to do with what specific parts of the body being used to eat. Oral vor is the most common. It's basically what you associate when you hear vor. Then there is what's called, well, how explicit can I get?
There's only 60
is my question
does that
here.
mean when Kronos devoured his children, is that child pornography?
No.
See, that guy snickered, he gets it.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Let's see in a lecture.
Let's see. Okay, I'm just gonna go right out because this is an academic in tone. It's not me trying to arouse anybody specifically. So, then you get the various kinds of vor based off of what orifice is used to consume. Yeah, basically. There is anal vor, which is quite described as the digestive system being used in reverse. Then... Unbirthing. Yes, unbirthing, whereas, like its name implies, is being pulled back into the uterus. Quite often, age regression is involved sometimes. Other times, it's a vessel for transformation, i.e. someone gets unbirthed by a dragon, turns into a dragon. Other times, it's used as most often, it's used just for the sake of arousal. Then there is the form of... Well, let's go on with breast vor, continue with the female. Unbirth is considered a category of vor. Let's see, then there's breast vor, getting sucked into the nipples, often processed into breast milk. Finally, there is the category called cockvore, which is, well, the male genitalia are used to consume the prey, often leading to the testicles in place of the stomach, and the victim is processed into seminal fluid. There are more types of vore out there, but those get very specialized and are generally rare. Like, I have seen one artist draw someone getting consumed by someone else's bell bottoms.
Yes.
So how about those Team Fortress 2 weapons?
Oh my fucking god.
The match will begin in 30 seconds.
But yeah, someone once asked Unbirth and Vore or mentioned how they learned. Anyway, Vore often is one of the stranger fetishes in that, first off, it's considered
How many people
safer
are actually
by-
watching this stream, by the way?
Like,
Now it's just June.
3.
The match kicks off in 10
Oh my
seconds.
god.
The reason Vore is considered one of the safer fetishes is because it's
3, 2,
strictly rooted in fantasy, so most psychologists see the very little threat of someone acting out a fantasy that will involve consuming someone else.
Welcome
So,
to PS2. We're gonna learn you a lesson about being inside of people.
So, for example, instead of someone who, say, has a asphyxiation fetish trying to inflict it on someone else, someone with a vorophilia fetish is, more often than not, categorizing themselves as an observer in the event.
Card broke.
Okay.
Also, Vore is also one of the more fetishes that's most commonly used
No!
without pornography
Stop!
or arousal of the subject being
Hightower,
involved.
for the love of all which is holy in this world!
No,
So,
Hightower,
for
please.
example,
Feels
For
bad
example,
for you.
My Little Pony
You don't
Friendship
like
is
spawn
Magic
camping and yet
changelings
you
are quite
nominate
often.
Hightower. What is this?
The changelings from My Little Pony Friendship is Magic are often related to vorophilia because their stated diet in the show is emotions. So many people seem to think that they would work like a organic version of the capsules from Matrix. They swallow a pony, feed off the emotions by trapping them in a pleasant world, and then spit them out at a later time.
Bad water, that's not.
Though I did once Okay, I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap up the board discussion. But
The match
quite
begins
often,
in 60 seconds.
but anyway, quite often, and as I said, most people who have the fetish don't know why. So it is a very fascinating fetish. Again, I just find the subject of paraphilias and how people acquire them very fascinating, which is why I know this sort of thing.
The match will begin in
That and
30
vorophilia being one of the fetishes I personally enjoy, is a contributing factor.
So how hot was expiration date?
Unfortunately, expiration date doesn't really qualify as something that is arousing to vorophilia.
The match kicks
It's
off in 10
the thing is,
seconds.
people. Yes, that is an example of.
3, 2,
That would be an example of soft vor if you had to stretch it. However, most people don't really see that as arousing because most people who have the vor fetish do in fact recognize when something is supposed to be scary or suspenseful as opposed to arousing. It's kind of like the difference between seeing an attractive woman walking down the street and seeing her as a Playboy centerfold. Well, of course. So, it just depends on the, not the strength of the fetish, depends on what triggers them more. For me, and quite a few people, vor is more arousing when it's same size soft vor. So, imagine something like, say, if the heavy decided the scout was actually a sandwich in disguise.
Sounds like a really bad fanfic.
Probably is.
I'm pretty sure the heavy eating anything would involve hardcore, but you know what I'm talking about.
I'm pretty sure that exists somewhere. Like, I'm almost positive.
Heck, some people argue the character Penis Cupcake counts as lore because he seemingly devours everything in his way.
Zen is a spy.
How would you die? I wanted to cut your head off. But yeah, the bread monster hiding inside scene, whatever, from expiration date wasn't really that arousing to someone with vorophilia by most counts. It's noteworthy, however, but it's not arousing.
That's a flaw
As I said, there are some people who... Oh, so Scout's superpower.
What about Scout?
Someone talked about the power to run the fuck away, and it's like, that sounds like the Scout if he tried to make up a superpower for himself. So yeah, like I said, it's, there are quite a few. I'm not going to start naming websites just because I don't know who else, because someone's streaming this, so I don't want anyone to start going to specific websites to troll them.
He has like 4 viewers. Like, really?
Like I said, I'm gonna want to see the recording of this stream just to see the various other comments that get left behind.
Honestly, I'd be surprised if somebody had said anything and just...
No, they did like
It's painful when he doesn't stream.
Okay, but
You're good at power.
so radioactive news probably has clinophilia, equiphilia, probably.
Oh my goodness. This
Yo,
is
that's
so
why I just like the telly. Legendary. Go touch him with your wrench or something.
Equiphilia. Equine plus... Most fetishes are named by some kind of object or creature, followed by philia. Literal translation...
Philia means love in Latin.
Yeah.
Kind of like when a molecule is hydrophobic, it hates water, as opposed to hydrophilic, which means it loves water.
Yeah.
Isn't
Legendary, if you know what I mean.
So...
Am I set on fire?
Yeah, reptile fetish would be herpophilia. For example, fetishes can get very specific and very odd. I know for a fact there was one that was originally created as a joke on the internet about how specific they get, that some people later found out, oh wait, that's an actual fetish we accidentally, you know, most people claim you don't create a fetish as much as you discover one. Just because of, I forget what it was named, it's something in Japanese. It's considered a subsection of corruption, the idea, as an explanation of corruption very quickly, imagine if, for example, Queen Chrysalis used mind control to turn the rest of the main six evil, and that would be appealing to the corruption fetish. It started as sort of a sub of that, but basically the idea is that people... I'm trying to think... corruption of champions is firmly rooted in transformation fetish.
You have a telly on the roof?
No, actually there is the corruption in there, yeah. Imagine if, instead of gaining corruption slowly, if every demon body part you transformed in Corruption of Champions automatically caused corruption.
Ooh, doesn't that hurt? I hate
So... Corruption of Champions is a game that you should probably not play. Okay, yeah, Psy Invader just described it perfectly.
Well, the fatal RPGs.
But anyway, I remember the name of the fetish. It was Hangare. Basically, it's kind of like corruption where people suddenly turn bimboed, turn Suddenly all their clothes turns into a latex one-piece swimsuit, and they strike a very strange pose where they're sort of doing what looks like a squat thrust with their hands down like they're making an upside-down triangle with their arms. And that's literally become a real fetish now. Humans can be a fetish. I don't have a fetish for humans.
That was very much the
Okay.
Yeah, someone actually confirmed the only way to have no such thing as a fetish is if you're totally asexual. And asexuality just basically means their brain does not connect sex as anything other than just reproduction. They just get no thrill or arousal or excitement. They just don't get it, basically, is the way of putting it. To them, sex is just alien and impossible to understand. Much like how if you have a friend who's trying to explain his personal fetish to you, really. I keep the carton, play with honor!
I don't know, my big thing is I've always felt that, like, it's a very personal thing, and it really... I feel weird that there's communities for fetishes, and, like... That it is such a personal thing that should remain private.
I mean, it's always gonna happen, though.
There's only 60 seconds left to go.
People who like the same thing will always congregate together.
Congregate.
I can speak English.
I'm fair, as one person once joked about on the internet, one of the rules of the internet, I believe it was rule 38 of the internet, it's somebody's fetish. That's literally the entire rule of the internet. It's somebody's fetish. Simply because fetishes can be as broad as... For example, I know there is in fact such a thing as lithophilia.
I don't think so.
Go away, Spider!
Let's see who knows Latin.
Stop it!
Let's see who knows enough Latin to translate lithophilia to English. Yes, rocks. Someone who has... Well, specifically litho means mineral, so... But yeah, there are such things as rock fetishes.
What if the Sydney Sleeper got mini crits on headshots instead of full? How much more viable
can be considered selfies wouldn't be a fetish on their own. They'd be part of a narcissistic fetish. I know for a fact narcissism is considered partially a fetish.
Well, exhibition.
Exhibitionism is a well-known fetish.
Zen has gone down.
No, because
I repeat, Zen has
it's been
gone
defined by several studies and a lot of people who have the psychological forms that help define what is and is not an actual fetish, have basically said, overall, what defines exhibitionism as a fetish is that it's not so much about being in public as much as doing things that you would perceive as sexual in public. Yeah, if you were doing like a nude selfie in the middle of a park, that would appeal to exhibitionism. Again, most people seem to think exhibitionism is driven less by the fact that you're exposed in a public place and more by the thrill that, I'm willing to bet everyone here has actually looked at porn when their parents had a potential of walking in on it. And you notice how that gave that slight adrenaline rush of I could get caught. And a lot of people seem to think exhibition is just an extension of that. For those people, they can't get aroused without the thought of them being potentially caught. No, I'm not talking like, oh, you're 20 and looking at porn. I'm talking like you're age 14, looking at porn on a shared computer in a room that isn't your bedroom, and that everyone will get really suspicious if you try and lock it.
Your dad is Shrek, and he just breaks through the door.
I did that when I was 8.
Get Shrek.
It's all ogre now.
the Shrek thing isn't so much of a fetish as it is a meme.
No, somebody.
Shrek would be technically classified under xenophilia.
But Shrek is love, Shrek is life, and it's the derivative of the word philia is love.
I really don't understand.
No. See, the thing is, Shrek would be qualified under xenophilia, which has been officially defined as... No, there isn't a specific fetish for ogres discovered yet. But they will say, for example, anyone... Scientifically, xenophilia is defined as a fetish for relations with one outside of what is considered socially normal, but is still... sorry, that came out weird. Basically, if you have a fetish for something that's a sentient being that is not human, it qualifies under xenophilia. It's a rather... makes xenophilia into a broad... rather broad fetish, but it is one that's very apt for description. By all accounts, for example, anyone who has a fetish for ponies technically has xenophilia, because they're considered things that are in fact of sentient intelligence, but they are not human.
Aren't ponies sapient?
Can somebody take out the sniper that's in map room? He's harassing my sentry.
I got him.
Spy coming in.
Ooh, hey, double kill.
5 minutes remaining in the match.
But, for example, I'm going to name a couple of fan fictions that are very good reading, by the way. Very good reading on their own, but they do involve some fetishes.
A half hour. Please send help.
The best example
It's been on
is
for like 2
one
maps,
titled...
so it's like an hour.
Oh, okay. 45. Let's say 45.
I was just gonna name drop...
2 hours.
Actually, I was just gonna name drop a couple of fics that had to do with a couple of fetishes that are all on like very high watermark.
Please kill this
and
spy
then,
for me, jeez.
And then drop it because it's getting late and I need to get some sleep.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
nice shot.
the fics are... One in relating to xenophilia is actually titled Xenophilia. It's not just, oh,
That's
here's
not a good
anonymous
fit.
human. It's actually a human given a background and name. I think his name is Leo. And
It is.
just basically talk about the differences between Equestria and Earth in the way relationships work. The next one has to do with hypnosis as a fetish. Yes, that is a fetish. Well, hypnosis and mind control. The fanfiction is titled Rainbow Dash Discovers Erotic Mind Control.
Pretty straightforward.
That sounds hot. Actually, that one is fairly good because I'm suggesting ones that are very well written besides being explicit. So you can read it just for, quick porn material, or you can read it and actually get legitimately involved with the story going on. That one basically starts off very much like how it sounds. Rainbow Dash ends up reading a book that contains... let's see, the next fetish.
Wow, that pound bad in your name really has a reason to be there.
Is there any
Keep hiding on my
Fortress 2
disc.
fetish, or it's like video game fetish?
Yes, I forget what it's called, but there is actually... It's much like how some people have fetishes for anime characters. Yeah, so, by the way, there's a guy in Japan who was lobbying to get the laws changed so he could marry an anime character.
Plush a file.
There is a difference between kinks and fetishes, though.
Lucky medic. You moved it at
The
the right
difference
time.
here is mostly that a
Yes, I
kink
did.
is just
Yes,
something
I
you
did.
view as... For example, me saying, oh, I'd love to, what's the way of putting it? Something like Playboy Bunnies, or, not Dear Abby, what's the way I'm thinking of it? Penthouse Magazine write-in, that's it. That's something along the lines of kinky, like, oh, I was gonna have a one-night stand with this hot babe,
I'm
and
pretty
then
sure we know the
she,
difference. At
walked
least
up to me
I
and-
know the difference.
Yeah, the difference is mostly just in... what's the way to put it? is it directly related to sex? If it's directly related to sex, it's kinky. You know, kind of like a girl comes on to you, then you get both go back to an apartment and she pulls her panties off without removing her skirt. That's kinky. Fetishistic is like if you're getting turned on by this woman putting on a long pair of elbow-length gloves. Fetishes aren't always direct. Most fetishes aren't related directly to sex. I was going to quit, then someone asked a question worth bringing up and spurred it on, so you can blame him.
No, don't blame me. Blame you.
Stop behind us.
What if the short circuit was like the short circuit immediately after the buff, instead of just how it is now?
Short sync. Anyway, I've mentioned a couple of paraphilia-centric stories. They are explicit, though. Look them up at your own peril. Corruption of Champions was mentioned. That does appeal to basically every fetish you can imagine. Look that one up at your own risk. Let's put it this way. Someone who here has watched Phineas and Ferb?
Oh god.
I don't because they have standards.
Who remembers the episode Excalibur where Candace Strength ended up getting splashed with all the transformation potions, turned into this weird mutant thing?
Wait, did you just ask if people watched a show, got two people saying no, and then asked if anyone remembered a certain episode?
Because a couple of people actually said they remembered watching the show. Is why I
don't care what you say.
Basically, the best way to describe Corruption of Champions is look up a picture as someone all kinds of freaky ass shit put together in a blender, and that's basically what your character looks like in Corruption of Champions after about 5 minutes.
A bloody mess.
As you try and
Optimus.
Just go to this site if you want to learn about Corruption of Champions. Xenophilia is an interesting fan fiction involving My Little Pony, as well as Rainbow Dash discovers erotic mind control. I'm going to ask the guy with Twitch in his name. Just a minute, who are you exactly?
April.
April?
Yep.
I'm going to, wait, just type something in the text chat so I can...
Look at June's chat.
Hey. Okay. I'm gonna write that down, look up your stream channel, see if I can find my own stream.
Probably a highlight as well.
Okay.
His entire conversation.
Oh crap, I need to find a pen.
Changeling, you should be playing Spy, so we can all see your... So everyone on blue can just see your chat bubble, because it never goes away.
This is the most I've talked on this server.
Ponies
in like a
would
year.
actually be considered part of xenophilia. Equiphilia would be real life horses. Ponies, as by My Little Pony FIM, would be xenophilia technically.
I guess you could call it Xenophilia.
Kicks off in 10 seconds.
Pier! That's one of my favorite maps.
Philia.
Pier.
Philia.
Oh no! Yep. Barn Blitz was on there. I wanted to vote for Barn Blitz. Whatever, Pier's pretty good as well. Well, it has so much junk at the end I can never, like, remember.
Does not make management.
What?
Sorry, I'm having lag spike.
Hey, Dwarf Snow's asking a question.
What?
He asked why Shining Armor and what's that other pony kissing in your spray?
Great, like spikes.
Caden?
Ace is our big gay uncle. Don't question it.
Whoa!
Ace is a pyromane.
Big gay pyromane uncle.
You see, the problem with your plan of having me switch to Spy so you'd be able to text me is, if I'm getting on a conversational tangent like this, I don't play Spy.
There's the problem.
Is Fathom gay by any chance?
Okay, I have to get off. I have to get some sleep, so I'll talk to you all later. I might come back. Do you want me to stay on?
Considering this conversation,
Just go.
I see why you have to get off.
See, just sleep.
You're welcome, everyone. Good night.
That was the weirdest hour this server has ever seen. If you hear it, I don't know.
It's kind of not.
If I hadn't